Hi everyone, I'm Stan Mallow. Welcome to Paranormal Yacker. My guest in today's show is Lopaka Kapanui. He is often referred to, and for valid reasons, as Hawaii's ghost guy. He's a master storyteller and owner of Hawaii's original, longest running, award-winning ghost tour company, Mysteries of Hawaii. Lopaka has also authored a number of excellent books on the myths, legends, folklore, ghost, and history of his beloved island homeland. In fact, he received a special citation from the Hawaii State Legislature for perpetuating and celebrating the local culture. Aloha, Lopaka Kapanui. Welcome to Paranormal Yacker.
Aloha, it's good to be here.
Your extensive knowledge of the history and customs of Hawaii was passed on to you the traditional Hawaiian way through, and I hope I'm saying this right, mo'olelo, from mouth to ear. Who were the people most responsible for providing you with the abundance of knowledge you acquired and which you've incorporated in your books and tours?
Mostly my mother and my late mentor, Glenn Grant, who actually started the first ghost tours in the island in 1974. But he wasn't from Hawaii. He was from Culver City, Sacramento.
I'm always curious where people get information from. Now I know. Mysteries of Hawaii offers a number of different ghost tours, and I'll be asking you about them. However, before doing that, I'd like to know, Lopaka, what criteria did you use in deciding which places to include in your tours and which stories you would tell?
It's mainly the history of particular locations that have a simultaneous spiritual history. So we'll say, for example, that here the Department of Health was built near an old temple of human sacrifice. Because of that, the Department of Health has a lot of spiritual activity. And so there's two things going on. What people that I know that work at the Department of Health have told me and have told my boss previous to me is that a lot of their employees who work there for their entire lives and retire and pass away or just pass away, it turns out their spirits don't go to wherever they're supposed to go. They come back to work. So the Department of Health is haunted by the spirits of people who worked there and then came back to work after they died.
Your extensive research on the subject of night marches led to you being the night marcher consultant on Netflix's adventure movie Finding Ohana. You also organize night marcher tours of Honolulu and Waikiki. Who, Lopaka, were the night marchers, and what can you tell me about your night marcher tours?
In life, night marchers were warrior chiefs who marched in a massive army of maybe like 30 abreast, almost a mile long, in front of another Hawaiian chief who was so high ranking, they were considered gods themselves. And so in ancient times around these kinds of people, you couldn't look at them. If you did, you'd be killed. And in not looking at them, you also had to remove all of your clothes and lie face down. And your hands had to be behind the back of your head like this. And you couldn't look. If the sun cast their shadow on your body, they kill you. And even if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and they happen to walk past you, and the wind causes the garment of their clothing to brush up against you, you're done. To make things easier, these high-ranking chiefs would only come out at night to spare everyone. And so it's pretty much the same thing they're now doing in the afterlife. And academically, the night marchers are termed to be cognizant spirits. So spirits that know they're dead, they know they can't move beyond, but also very aware of the living and can interact with them. Today, in the afterlife, night marchers doing the same thing. And so when they're coming, we, the living, still have to do the same thing before. Clothes off, face down, can't look. And there are many documented accounts of people who see night marchers who've been physically shoved aside, stabbed, slapped. Sometimes a person feeling a hand grab the back of their neck or grab the hair and just shove them to the ground.
In your Ghost of Old Honolulu tour, you walk through the paths once traveled by Hawaiian royalty in the realms of restless spirits that inhabit your downtown community. What sites, Lopaka, are covered in that tour, and why do so many restless spirits roam the streets there and don't descend into the spirit realm?
Well, the thing about our culture is many times our ancestors are right here, always next to us. And so it's also because in ancient times we kept the bones of our ancestors or our enemies, but otherwise we bury them in places where nobody can find them. So in downtown Honolulu, for example, is the place the ancient people called Loku. So Loku was a place where the spirits of chiefs would gather to play the games they played in life. And so the games are interesting because one game is called Konane, it's sort of like chess. Another game called Kilu is like matchmaking. And another game called Ho'opapa is riddling. The stakes of the game are what's really interesting because if you win everything from the tip of the mountain to the flatlands, 500 feet out into the ocean, and everything and everyone within this span of land will become yours. But if you lose your bones. So if the person you lose to is in a good mood, he'll kill you first, put your body in their underground oven, and steam the flesh off your bones. But if he's a bad winner, he'll strip the flesh from your bones while you're still alive. This Loku place is where no one wants to be between 6 in the evening and 2 in the morning because they say if the spirits of those chiefs see you as a living person, they invite you to this celebration. But the caveat is if you go, no one sees you again. And so on one of these locations today is the first Hawaiian bank building. It's the most haunted office building in downtown Honolulu for years. So a lot of the accounts have been in old Hawaiian language newspapers, other papers. And so continuously, no matter what's been built there, there's always been this very adverse activity. That's one of the things we talk about.
According to Hawaiian mythology, a Kanaka was the chief of a group of cannibals. At what period in history did he exist? How did he and his followers find their prey, and what caused their demise?
Aikanaka probably existed before the 10th century. His tribe lived more toward the north of the island. And history says that they more than likely came from Papua New Guinea and landed first on the island of Kauai. And when they were found out to be cannibals, they were cast out and came to the island of Oahu, where I'm at. And so eventually they couldn't keep their identity secret and people started to disappear. And so the reigning chief at the time, Maili Kukahi, found them out to be cannibals and cast them out. Aikanaka, the cannibal chief, was about 8 feet tall and very hairy. And so today in the area where his tribe once lived in ancient times is a pineapple plantation. And they have this maze in this place. And again, everybody knows that the place is haunted by the spirits of this tribe of cannibals. They see shadowy figures moving about during the day. People hear their names being called. People are physically touched. And there's always this particularly foul odor that permeates the place. No matter what they do, they can't seem to get rid of it.
In the Hawaiian religion, Pele is the goddess of volcanoes and fire and the creator of the Hawaiian Islands. What is the story or legend of how she came to be, and why was she revered by so many people?
Pele had her own, for lack of a better term, religion and followers and priests. So the short story is, in the South Pacific, a place called Kahiki, a young girl named Pele was being taught the art of stoking volcanic fires by her uncle. And Pele's older sister, Namako Kaha'i, was the goddess of the ocean. It's kind of like that Disney movie where Mickey Mouse is given the wizard's powers and everything goes crazy. Pele accidentally burns down her older sister's side of the island. And so the older sister is water, Pele is fire, so they've never gotten along. So when he returns home and sees that her part of the island has been burnt to cinders, she goes after Pele and swears to kill her. And so in that journey, Pele comes to the Hawaiian archipelago. As she travels down the archipelago, each island she stops at, she builds a volcano. The sister comes and peels out the fire with her ocean until she finally kills Pele at the island of Maui. And then Pele's family, they take her bones and they deify it at the volcano on the Big Island. And so that's how Pele becomes this goddess of flames.
Nappera-bo, a faceless Japanese ghost, has been sighted on a number of occasions in Hawaii. What, Lopaka, can you tell me about her? And is there any backstory as to why her spirit traveled from Japan to Hawaii? Also, what was the reaction of the people who saw her?
So the Nappera-bo is the faceless shapeshifter. I stand corrected. It's a faceless spirit because it can only assume one form. And in Japan, the Nappera-bo appeared as someone who was in distress or needed help, normally a woman. And when the person goes to help them, they turn around and remove the hats, the covering, the hair, an orb of flesh, no face. So because of immigration to the islands from different parts of the world to work on the cane fields, sugar cane, it seems that when those people who came from Western Japan, places like Niigata to Hawaii, might have actually bought this Nappera-bo with them, which is why we have such a diverse collection of spirits in the islands. And so the Nappera-bo was first seen at a place called the old Waialae Drive-In. Remember those? Well, you're probably too young to remember this, but there's a place you used to go park your car, the big 700-foot screen. They project the movie onto it. So she was first seen at that Waialae Theater in the women's bathroom in 1958. And everybody thought it was strange because this woman in a kimono standing in front of the mirror, brushing her hair like this. And the last woman who went in there, who was coming out to wash her hands, saw that woman in the kimono and just looked at her and said the woman in the kimono put her hairbrush down on the counter, didn't put it down, slammed it down, grabbed her hair like this in front of her and just yanked it back. And that's when they saw she had no face. And that was in a newspaper article in 1958. And she's been here ever since.
The flesh-eating, shape-shifting Filipino vampire-like creature, Aswang, has been said to roam the islands of Hawaii in search of her next victim. In what forms, Lopaka, does she shapeshift? And should someone encounter her, is there any ritual or spell one can say or do to prevent Aswang from devouring them?
Because of immigration, the aswang comes to us from the Philippines. And so it has a human form during the day, but at night, the top half of the human being breaks off and the creature, the aswang, comes out. And so essentially what it's looking for is pregnant women because it likes to drink the embryonic juices from its belly. So it has this long distended tongue, applies itself to the pico or the belly button and takes out all the embryonic juices. So what they say is a couple of methods. If you're walking around in the evening and you see a human half torso saturated with garlic or vinegar, so when the creature comes back, it can't go back into its body. The sun rises and kills the creature. The other method in which you can kill the aswang is either by fire or with the barb of a stingray. The problem is you have to find out and discern who the aswang is, and that's very difficult.
When you do live shows where you contact deceased loved ones of audience members and relate messages given to you by those spirits, how do you channel them? Is it via mediumship, using an intermediary such as a spirit guide or guardian angel, a call on an ancestor, or do you employ another method?
When we do what we call ghost storytelling concerts at theaters and other large venues, people's deceased relatives are already there. And so in many instances, those deceased relatives with the living people on a show, on a tour, are just there. They're not saying anything. But if it's an important message, then they'll step forward and give me a first and last name and then the message. In those theater shows, a lot of times these people's deceased relatives come through and want to say something while the show is going on, and they will refuse to back down until I say something. So these spirits who belong to the people in the audience, in many instances, have hijacked the show or have hijacked the tour until I stop and say something.
Wow, just curious, when people do contact to the other side, do you do any ritual or meditation before that, or you just go forward with it?
What I do is take at least 20 minutes before the show, the tour, to just meditate and pray, to channel good positive energy. And I think that's pretty much what opens everything up. There was a woman at a show, her spirit had been coming through the week before, and her name was Eileen Manning. And so during the actual show at the theater, I asked 4 different times, is anyone here connected to an Eileen Manning? Periodically, nobody said anything. So the short story is, the last time I said it, I said, okay, Eileen Manning, one last time, anybody? And the gentleman in the audience gets up and says, Eileen Manning, I was her caregiver. And before he could say any more, I said, she passed away from cancer. He said, yes. And I said, and you were there with her? He said, yes, I was, all the way to the end. And I said, well, Eileen wants me to tell you that she appreciates you being there. She knows you're guilty about it, but she's glad that she didn't die alone. That's what she wanted to say.
What, Lopaka, is there about Hawaii that has resulted in becoming a magnet for attracting so many beings and entities from the spirit world?
I think because we're a collective of volcanic islands and there's a volcano here that's persistently active. I think we have a permeating electromagnetic field over the islands that's channeling these spirits, which is why I believe Hawaii was and is and will be a repository for these kinds of things. And a woman once told me years ago, which I didn't really think about, she said, if world peace ever happens, it's going to begin here in Hawaii and permeate outward. So now, considering the state of the world, I sort of believe that might actually happen.
Wow, yeah, the world is in a state indeed. Should viewers of Paranormal Yacker want to learn about your Mystery of Hawaii ghost tours, and when they visit Hawaii, obviously, to me, it would be a must-do sign up for them, and also learn about your books and how they can order them, how, Lopaka, can they do that?
Through our website, mysteries-of-hawaii.com. We also have a similar social media on Instagram and Facebook. And so that's the best way to get a hold of us.
Lopaka Kapanui, mahalo. I thank you for being my guest on Paranormal Yacker. Yakking with you has been an extraordinary experience, and I know now why they call you a master storyteller. Aloha. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to say to you that I appreciate that you've done your research. It was obvious to me.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, I was fascinated with everything I read about, but I also want to know the backstories, the why, where, how did this come to that? And you answered them all. So again, thank you, and till we meet again. Bye-bye.
Mallow, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Aloha.
Hi, everyone. This is Stan Mallow, the Paranormal Yacker. I hope you enjoyed the interview you just watched. So that you don't miss any upcoming shows, be sure to subscribe to my free YouTube channel. To do that, just press the subscribe button on your screen.